to consider how to put this legacy into here, now, where we are, as we are. It might be wise to consider a couple of traditional koans to see how they deal with this, what they offer. I mentioned yesterday, interpreting for Fukushima Roshi, when he told the story of when he was stuck as a monk in the monk's hall, and he asked the monk next to him what the Roshi of Nanzenji Roshi Shibayama said to him. He always made a point of saying, you're not supposed to talk what goes on, say what goes on in the one-on-one, the Doksan or Sanzen. Not because it has to be kept secret so much as because it's not really helpful for someone else. This is something that's going on in a way, it's a very intimate thing. And also not to deal with this with different teachers. But when you are dealing with one teacher, you just go all the way with it. And again, it's not so much that it's an esoteric or secret teaching, but that it can be not really harmful, but it's not really helpful to give that information out as public, you might say, because at that point in time for that person, it's the right thing. So for example, when Shibayama used to say, be a fool, bakani nari, be a fool. But the guy next to him, he was actually saying, study hard, because that was perhaps what each of those people needed at that time. Well, let us look at the flower sermon. This is a traditional koan found, for example, in the Gateless Barrier. Some of you have worked with it, some of you are now working with it. It is a legend about the first transmission, the beginning lineage of Zen Buddhism. Instead of giving a sermon at Vulture Peak, at that time, at that place, the world-honored one, Gautama Shakyamuni Buddha, simply held up a flower in his hand. This is considered the transmission, or the beginning of the lineage in Zen. Mahakashapa, who became the successor, saw through what was being done, so he naturally smiled. And then there's this famous exchange where the world-honored one, Gautama Buddha, says that he has this exquisite teaching of formless form and so on, and that he is now handing it over, conveying it, transmitting it to Mahakashapa. It's a very interesting legend, but as a koan, it demands that we realize, not just realize so much as bring to life here and now that transmission and lineage. It's not about 2,500 years ago, a legend that it is. It's not about that. It has to be about what is going on here and now. That transmission, as it's called, that lineage, has to be brought to life here and now. In a sense, that's the real point of the koan. Another koan worth considering, again, for us here and now, 10 years after the passing of Fukushima Roshi, in a way, a traditional Japanese Zen master, in a way, way beyond that. But still, he was a Japanese Rinzai Zen master. This other koan is one that he liked quite a lot. It's from his favorite Zen master, Joshu. And he used it quite a bit at the end of his life, for obvious reasons. Very simply, a monk asked, what is the meaning of, what is the point of Bodhidharma coming from the West? What is the meaning of Zen? What is the real truth? And at that time, at that place, for that monk, perhaps they were sitting out on the veranda like here, Joshu pointed and said, that tree in the garden. It used to be translated as a couple different kinds of trees. Now we've decided with the scholarship of Zen, it's actually a cypress tree. It has to do with the Chinese character, changed over the centuries, and in Japan it's used for a slightly different kind of tree. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That tree in the garden. But the monk's asking about the ultimate truth. Why is he pointing to the tree in the garden? This is a very poignant koan. But the valuable point for us here and now is what came after. One of Joshu's able disciples later said, my master Joshu had no such koan. He never said such a thing. Don't slander him. Don't speak ill of him. But it was very clear. Everybody knows he said that. It was a very famous statement. Why is this disciple of his denying that fact? Saying, my master never said such a thing. Don't slander him. Speak ill of him. This is a very valuable koan for us now. How do we really preserve the legacy of Fukushima Roshi? Translate his books, tell stories about him? Yes, it's nice, but that is not enough. That is not enough. Later on, another famous Zen master commenting on this koan of this cypress tree, the tree in the garden, said, this koan has the working of a bandit, a thief in the night. Another koan that is very relevant, very useful for us here and now is this one. The first two I mentioned are found in the Gateless Barrier. This third and last one is found in the Shumon Kato Shu, or translated as entangling vines. At first I intended to spend my time secluded deep in the mountains, but because of the unfinished koan of my master, I have returned here. Monk asks, what is this unfinished koan? The master strikes the monk and says, what our ancestors, those who came before us, what our ancestors left unfinished, their descendants, those who come after us, must deal with. The point here, of course, is what is an unfinished koan? On the surface, the whole point of koan practice and the koan curriculum is to finish them, to get through them, to solve them, to really see through and see beyond them. This koan is rather exceptional because in a way it's a koan about koans, about koan practice. What is it to finish, to solve, to resolve, to answer a koan? And what really is an unfinished koan? I urge you, if you really want to continue this legacy of Fukushima Roshi, to consider well, to see into, to see through, to see beyond these koans. The flower sermon, the cypress tree in the garden, and this unfinished koan. They're not really necessary, but they can help to show us the way through. How, again, to make it alive, vibrant, here and now. Mere imitation, mere even continuing the tradition will not do. To continue the tradition, we must go beyond. We will finish this series of 3 brief Dharma talks tomorrow. I trust, if not already, it will be brought home by then. Thank you all.